Okay, so we are starting down on our backs in constructive rest. So come down and just have your block kind of nearby and handy just towards the end of your mat, just so that it's available and easy to grab when the time comes. All right, so come down into constructive rest. Give a second to just find your way down, step your feet to an appropriate width apart that feels nice. Let your knees drop in towards each other. And then just for a moment here, let your arms find a nice comfortable place. And that could be anywhere that feels good to you. You might rest them on your belly, out wide, whatever works. You might even take them into cactus or goalpost arms if that feels like a place for you to be. And then once you found your way down onto the ground, just give a second to kind of feel into your body, like maybe press into your head, lift your chest a little bit, snuggle your shoulder blades in, and then relax them back down. And then take that same kind of principle down to your feet. So give your toes a little wiggle, maybe push into your feet, wiggle your tush around just a little bit, and then let your tailbone find a nice happy place to land as well. And then just take a few settling in breaths, nothing fancy, nothing forced, but just allow your body that breath of time to sort of sink and settle into the ground. And then eyes closed if you can, or if it feels safe and comfortable to do so. Notice your body. So just notice your physical body and notice any places in your body that you might still be holding a little tension or gripping. So notice maybe if your inner thighs are still a little bit active, see if you can let your inner thighs relax. If your toes and your feet feel like they're still a little bit active, now can you give your toes a little wiggle and then let your feet relax? If you're holding your belly, if you feel like there's still a little bit of tension in your abdomen, can you let your abdominal muscles relax? And then with that relaxation, you might find the backs of your ribs get just a little bit heavier into the ground as well. And then give a little time here to just let your breath slow down to a nice soft rhythm. Arms are heavy, legs are soft and heavy. And I just love the name of constructive rest because it gives it all the qualities that it needs. We are allowing our body to rest and hopefully finding a little softness in the muscle tissue, but it's offering this nice constructive position. So it's really good for us. So think of this position here as like all the best work you can possibly do for yourself right now. And with that idea of this being the best work that you could possibly do for yourself right now, take a bigger inhalation and let your ribs expand. Slow but natural exhale, let your ribs draw in towards each other. And then before we do anything that's more active than this with the body, take a moment here to set an intention to honor your mind and your body throughout your practice, never doing anything that would cause your body pain, and treating yourself with love, care, and respect. With that intention set, keeping your body just exactly as it is, tune into your hearing sense. So just start to notice the sounds around you. And you don't have to go big and active with that tuning into the sense of hearing, but just let all the sounds around you come in to meet your ears. So the sound of my voice, the sound of the room that you're in, maybe the sound of the room outside of you or the world outside of the room that you're in. And just let all those sounds come in to meet your ears. And then within all of those sounds, can you find the sound of your breath? Without trying to force or change the breath, but just can you tune in and listen and notice the sound of your breath, which might be super subtle. Keeping the body just as it is, we're going to find a little attention to the rib cage and the breath. So right hand is going to find a handhold. And normally I would say, take your right hand and reach it across the left side of your ribs. But tonight I'm going to say, take your right hand and place it on your ribs wherever feels the most beneficial to you. So that might mean that your right hand is on the right side of your ribs. Your right hand might be across to the left side of the ribs or any other place that feels good. You might even place it around the solar plexus and notice the movement of breath there. So just wherever is the most comfortable handhold for your right hand, find that position, give a second to settle into that shape, and then come back to your breath awareness. Take a nice generous inhale, fill your lungs up, feel that expansive breath in your ribs. And a slow but natural exhale. Take one or two more breaths here, just whatever amount of breath works right for you, just to find your natural rhythm. And then when you feel ready, release your right hand, take a nice big breath, slow breath out. And then we're going to take that work into the left hand. So left hand is going to maybe reach to the left side of the ribs, maybe across to the right side of the ribs, or maybe it's going to find the solar plexus, just whatever handhold feels the most beneficial to you. Once you've got your handhold, then come back to that breath awareness. Taking that generous inhale, feel that expansive breath in your rib cage. Slow but natural exhale. One or two more cycles of breath here. And then when you feel ready, release your left hand. Both arms are back out nice and wide, or it may be in an anatomical position. And then we're just going to add a gentle turn of the head. So gently rock your head side to side. We're just inviting some gentle movement in here so that you kind of feel that bit of movement in the back of your neck. If you're feeling really tuned in here, as you turn your head side to side, you might even feel a little bit of gentle movement down the length of your spine. Take one more turn of your head side to side. And then as your head comes back to center, we're bringing some gentle movement into the knees. So start by a light windshield wiper action, just a small amount of movement. Give a little bit of time here. So normally when we come to our yin practice, we don't do a lot of big movements because we want to keep the muscles kind of cold. But just for tonight, especially here with these windshield wipers, slowly allow the range of motion to increase. So start with those super small windshield wipers. And then with a little bit of time, maybe you increase your range of motion, or maybe you adjust your feet so that you can find an increased range of motion. If you get to an increased range of motion and it feels like that's not what you need, you might come back to constructive rest and let it rest. But if it feels good to find a little bit of gentle movement, slowly start to increase. Take 1 or 2 more drops of the knees side to side, just in whatever range of motion was working good for you. And then when you feel ready, we're going to move towards our supine twist, but you're going to step your feet in just a little bit closer now, and then notice your back and notice how your back feels. And then ask yourself, so you can make these little adjustments to this supine twist that's going to work good for you. I like to pull my right knee up nice and high towards my chest. Left leg is going to go nice and long. And then I keep that hiked up knee and I take my supine twist that way. It feels really good. I don't get any sciatic, nothing goes on there. So that for my body, this feels like a nice way to go. For some of us, it might feel good to keep your knee in line with your hip and take your supine twist there. And here's a place where you can take your block and place it underneath the knee, and it can offer a little bit of support. You can also take your supine twist with both knees bent and drop both knees over to the side. So pick the variation that you think will feel really nice to you tonight. Pull your right knee into your chest, left leg bent or left leg long. That's totally up to you. And then take the right knee or double knees over and across your body. And then once you've got your way there, that's when you're going to find your settling in. So let your right shoulder be soft and heavy. If it feels good and beneficial, you might turn your head to the right, but it might feel better to keep your gaze up towards the ceiling. Whatever you choose, find some softness within that position. Take a quick moment just to tune in and notice how your body feels, and then ask yourself, are there any smaller, subtle changes that you can make that would make this position the most beneficial to you tonight, whether that's energetically or physically? If you're perfectly happy just as you are, maintain that soft stillness. But if you feel like there's any adjustments that you could make that can bring a little bit more benefit, take the moment to do that and then soften back into it. Take one more breath. And then when you're ready, slowly and gently bring it back into center. So as you pull your right knee or double knees back in, maybe bring both knees into your chest, give a gentle, gentle rock side to side. Notice your low back, notice your hips, notice your shoulders. Take one good breath here. And then ask yourself what would feel good to the other side. So the other side is a counter stretch. We don't really have to do much besides go to the other side. But if you felt like the knee up to the chest felt like a good way to go, see if that feels good on this side. Maybe one side has a little bit of a slight variation in your hip, so it feels better to keep the knee in line with the hip. Or maybe it feels better on this side to do double knee. So you choose the version on this side that feels the best to you. Also can add the block in if that feels like it's beneficial. And then once you feel like you've found a good position with your body, soften into it. And then see if you can just tune back in and notice the movement of breath in your ribs and in your torso. Take a moment to do that quick little physical assess. Make sure everything is still feeling good. If there's anything that you can adjust that could make you more comfortable, take a second to do it and then soften right back into that position. Take one more breath here. And then when you feel ready, pull the left knee into your chest or both knees into your chest. Bring the right knee into meet if the right leg was nice and long. Once you've got both knees into your chest, just a gentle, gentle rock side to side. Tune in and notice how your back feels. We're going to start to find our way up to a seated position. So you come up in any way that works good, which might be rolling to one side, or you might rock and roll up, just depending on your energy level here. But then once you found your way up, we're going to take it into a nice little seated forward fold. So you might choose to keep a super amount of bend in the knees and think more seated ragdoll, so your belly and chest rest on your thighs. But if you're feeling like you've got it in you and you want to get a little bit more extended with the legs, but let there be a soft, gentle bend in the knees. Let your toes fall out the way they naturally do. And then just fold yourself over in a way that feels good and soft. If you like a little support, you can always take your block and just tuck it right up under your knees. It's going to create that gentle bend and you don't have to put so much effort into holding that gentle bend. So find a position that you feel like feels comfortable to you, and then see if you can just invite some softness in. Soften through the back of your body. Soft through your feet. Soft through the back of your neck. Take a moment to do just a quick assess. If you are folded over and you're feeling a zinging sensation up into your butt or your glute muscles, bend your knees a lot more so that you're taking that out of the glutes. But if everything is feeling good, just stay as soft as you are. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly start to bring yourself up and out of that fold. If you place the block underneath your knees, go ahead and remove it, and then just give everything a little wiggle. Wiggle your knees, wiggle your toes and your ankles, maybe even shrug out your shoulder and move your spine just a little bit. We're going to find our way into a Sukhasana easy seat or any other seat that feels comfortable that lets you sit up nice and tall. And we're going to take it into the head and the neck. So we're going to drop left ear over to left shoulder, and you're going to pause there and assess how that feels. If it feels good, but you know you want to go a little bit deeper, you're going to let your hand rest on your head, but only if that feels good to you. If that feels like it's just a little too much, you're going to leave that part off. We're only going to be here for a minute, so it might not be too much to have the weight on, but just you know how your head and neck is feeling tonight. So just tune into what feels the best to you, and then invite some softness in. Notice if you're clenching your jaw or holding tension there. Can you let your jaw soften? Take one more breath. We're going to keep the head tilted down, but if your hand was resting on your head, go ahead and release your hand. Now we're going to turn the nose down towards the armpit. So we're going to keep the head tilted to the side, but rotate your nose toward your armpit. And then once you've found that position, just take a couple of gentle nods of the head up and down. Nice. One more nod of the head up and down, and then bring it all back to center. Take a little breath, shrug the shoulders up, let the shoulders soften down, and we're going to take that right over to the other side. So you're going to drop your right ear towards the right shoulder. If you like, your hand is going to rest on your head. Once you've got yourself into that comfortable position, see if you can find some softness in your jaw. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to keep the head tilted, but rotate. So nose towards the armpit. And then once you've got that position, a gentle nod of the head up and down. Nice. And then when you're ready, bring your head back up to center. Inhale, let your shoulders lift and squeeze up to the ears. Exhale, let them soften down. And now we're going to take it into our butterfly position, cobbler's pose. So soles of the feet together, knees out to the left and to the right. And we're going to fold right into it. But anyone who needs a little bit of extra support, you can take your 2 yoga blocks, tuck them under your thighs. You can take your pillows, tuck them under your thighs, or wrap your blanket around your feet and tuck them under your thighs. So if it feels better to have a little bit of support around your thighs in this butterfly position, take a second to do that. And then once you've got a position that feels good, you're going to lean yourself forward. And here variables may apply. So your diamond shape might be heels far away. Your diamond shape might be heels a little bit closer. We're all going to have a little bit of subtle differences in our hips here. And then the depth to which you can fold. But what we want to make sure that we're finding is a good, comfortable position, no shooting pain in the knees and no shooting pain in the low back. So go only to a depth that feels good. And also you can use your block in front of you and rest there. Brings the floor up to meet you a little bit. So find the version that works the best for you. And then once you're there, come back to that softness. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly start to bring yourself up and out of that fold. And then once you come up, help your knees come together, step your feet out in front of you, and just a light and gentle swish of the knees side to side. Just bring us some light movement back in. And then arrange yourself so that you can flip around onto your belly. We're going to come into our Sphinx pose. So come down in a way that feels good. But now if you're feeling like your energy level needs as much support as it can find, you might choose to take a pillow and just tuck it right underneath your solar plexus so that you can find the Sphinx position in a soft and gentle way. So we're going to come down onto the belly, elbows fairly in line with the shoulders, hands in a fairly parallel position. But then we're going to see how it feels to just kind of pick the feet up and let the heels drop in towards the butt. So we're going to keep this little bent knee position only if this feels good to be it. If it feels like it creates too much compression in the low back, or if it's just creating too much of an extension into the front of your hips. So you might notice it in the front hip pocket area. So if you feel like that's just a little too much for you tonight, relax your toes back down. But if it feels okay to be here, heels towards the butt, let your thighs be kind of heavy. And then maybe you just let your chin drop down towards your chest. So in this position here, we do want a little bit of a positive compression of the spine. So we want that positive pressure. But if it feels like you've slumped too much and everything feels like it's a little bit too relaxed, then you might choose to just kind of keep a little bit of a lift up through the solar plexus so that you're not dropping into your shoulders and compromising there. So we want to find that compression and make a positive stress on the bones of the connective tissue, but we don't want to put it so much that you're harming your shoulders and slumping too much. So make sure that you find that little bit of balance of effort and ease here. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, start by just releasing your feet down towards the ground. Walk your elbows wide. So we're going to come into a little bit of a crocodile position. So feet slightly wider, let your forehead rest on your hands, and then just take a second to kind of do a little shimmy shake, a little shimmy of your bum. Relax your back, let your shoulders kind of rock and shimmy a little bit. Take one more nice deep breath here. Or stay here as long as you like. But when you feel ready, slowly start to bring yourself up into a tabletop position. And then through that tabletop position, we're going to come back to child's pose. So if you like a child's pose with the knees together, toes together, that's the one that's written down on my piece of paper. But if you know that you need a little bit of space, you might choose to walk your knees out to a width that feels right to you. If it feels okay, but back towards the heels, but it never matters if your butt can touch the heels. That's not what we're shooting for. We just want to get that nice little rounded position with the body. And then you choose whether hands in front of you feels good or whether hands behind you touching the soles of your feet feel good. It does create a compression in the belly and the chest. So still want to make sure that you're breathing comfortably here with ease. And same thing for your knees. So butt all the way back to the heels might not feel beneficial to the knees. So you might choose to tuck your pillow, if you've got one, right between the backs of your thighs and your calves, and it might create a little space for your knees. Choose the variation that works best for your body. And then once you've got your way there, invite that softness back in. Soften into your breath. I should say that if your forehead doesn't touch the ground like mine sometimes doesn't, a nice way to create a little support for your head and your neck is just take your yoga block or your pillow, tuck it right up underneath your forehead, and then you've got that nice, soft, relaxed position. Take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly start to bring yourself up to a tabletop position. If you used your block or your props, take them and set them out of the way, and then come up into your tabletop position. If your knees were super close, maybe just walk them out a little bit wider, and then we're going to just do a couple of bops of the hips. So rock your hips a little side to side. One more little rock side to side, and then rock your hips forward and back. So not a big giant movement, but just maybe pull your butt slightly back towards your heels and then come forward slightly. Nice. One more little rock forward and back. And then when you're ready, we're going to flip it around onto our backside. So you swing your legs out in any way that works good for you, but we're going to come back down onto our back, have your block nearby and handy, lower yourself all the way down to the ground. And then we're going to take a little bit of a reclined tree pose. So left leg is going to go out nice and long, right leg is going to get into that bent knee position. So you're going to start by just sliding the leg up and then see if you can let the leg externally rotate. This might mean that it needs a little bit of support. So you might want to take your block or your pillow and tuck it right under the outside of the thigh so that you don't have to effort too much and it's not pulling your hip over to that side. So find the position that works good for you. If you've got lots of external rotation and the leg just drops down and it all feels good and comfortable, cool. But if not, then give it the support that it needs. Once you've got your way there, we're going to do only 1 minute on each side. So take the time to relax into this position and then see if you can bring your hands back to your rib cage and then just tune in and notice your breath here. Take one more breath. And then either you do it manually or just control the muscles, but we're going to help that leg come up. You might choose to pull it up towards your chest just to give it a little wiggle jiggle. And then when you're ready, we're going to switch to the other side. So right leg is going to extend long, left leg is going to slide in, and then you're going to see how it feels to let the knee drop out to the side. Ask yourself, does this leg want support? And one side might be totally different than the other. So give this leg the support if it needs it, placing your block or your pillow under the thigh, and then allow just a little bit of time to let everything settle into that shape. Soft through your hips, soft through your right extended leg, arms wherever feels comfortable, or if you like, bring them back to the ribs and just focus on that movement of breath in the rib cage. Take one more breath here. And then either help it along or just lift it up with the muscle control, but pull that left knee in, maybe give it a little wiggle jiggle. And then we're going to slide both legs in. So we're going to find a bent knee position, feet about hip or shoulder distance apart, just depending on the variables in your hips. And now we're going to take it into our supported bridge. So using your block or your throw pillow, you're going to lift your butt up. I say if you're using your yoga block, do it on the lowest setting, unless you're super tall and the lowest setting barely gets you off the ground. If you're super tall, flip it to the medium setting, but lift your butt up, slide your block underneath your butt. We want it underneath the tailbone and the hip bones. So we want to make sure that it's underneath that strong bony structure. And then once you found your way there, let your arms come into anatomical position. So they're just going to come out at your sides about 45 degrees away from the body with the palms facing up, if that feels like a comfortable way to go. Adjust your head, neck, and shoulders so everything feels good and soft. And then invite some softness in, soft through the belly, soft through the front of the hips. Take a moment here just to tune in and notice. You might be super happy just as you are. And if you are, you might choose to just stay here. But especially if you sat in a chair a lot today and there was a lot of closing off of that hip crease throughout the day for you, see how it feels to maybe walk your feet nice and long to the end of your mat, keeping the block or the pillow underneath you. So it's going to create that elevated sense of the hips, and then it'll invite a little bit of stretch through that front hip or where your front pockets would be. If you get your legs out there and you're like, no, that's a little too much, walk them back in, stay in that supported bridge. If it feels good to be here and you're like, well, yeah, that feels great and I want a little bit more, extend your arms up and overhead. And then see if you can invite a little softness in here. So make sure your head and your shoulders feel good. You might allow your toes to soften. If it feels a little bit better to be a little bit supported, then you'll flex your feet. But if it feels okay to be soft in this position, relax your glutes best you can. Relax through the front of the body best you can. Take one more breath here. If you opted to have the arms up and overhead, maybe start by bringing the arms back down. And then with control, slide your feet back in. Press into your feet, lift your hips up, remove the block out from underneath you, move it way off and out of the way, and then settle your hips down. Once you've got your hips down on the ground, toe heel your feet to a nice, comfortable position, and then come back to those gentle windshield wipers. So super small range of motion to start. Give your hips some time. And then as you find a little bit of loose gumminess in the hips, then maybe you increase that range of motion, but only to a point that feels good. Nice. Take one more swish of the knees side to side. And we're going to go into Banana Asana just as sort of a counter to the work that we just did, but we're not going to stay there for much time. So pick up your hips, shift them over to the right side of your mat, walk your feet to the left bottom corner of your mat, take your arms, reach them up to the top left corner of your mat, and just take a nice big breath here. Big giant inhale, fill your lungs up, let the ribs expand. Two more cycles of breath. Awesome. And then soften your arms and your shoulders, slide the feet back up and in. We're going to shift the hips over to the left side of the mat. So get your hips arranged first, and then walk your feet down to the bottom right corner of your mat. Once you've got your legs arranged, arms are going to reach up to the top right corner of the mat. So we get that side bend to the other side. Once you've got your way there, just come back to your breath. Nice, big, generous inhale, fill your lungs up. Two more cycles of breath. Awesome. And then when you're ready, start by releasing your arms, slide your feet back in, shift your hips back to that central position. And then we're just going to bring a little bit of hip stability back in before we find our way to Shavasana. So legs are going to come up into that reverse tabletop position, hands to the outsides of your knees. Knees are going to push into the hands. Hands are going to create a little resistance. So we're going to push the knees out, push the hands in, and what we just want to get is those hip stabilizer muscles firing back up again. So we let them be nice and soft and loose and relaxed. And now we want to bring them back into action. So knees push out, hands push in. So there's a little bit of work in the upper body as well. Take one more moment. So there's still that active knees pushing out, hands pushing in. Take one more breath. And then when you feel ready, gently release your feet back down to the ground. Pause for a moment and notice. And then ask yourself, where would be your best Shavasana? Would it feel good to come back to constructive rest? Would it feel good to roll to one side or flip over onto your belly? Or maybe take that more traditional shape and walk your feet nice and long. So any variation of the body that feels very restful to you and allows you to find a little stillness. And then as you start to find your way into that position, just kind of tune into the environment around you. Is it cold in the room that you're working in? Would it feel good to throw a blanket on? Is it warm in the room that you're working in? And would it feel good to just let there be a little bit more space between your limbs? So check in, ask yourself what feels the best to you tonight, and then invite some softness into your body. As you start to settle in, maybe you close your eyes down. But before you go all the way to that faraway place, wherever that Shavasana tends to take you, with your eyes closed, maybe you just come back to your listening sense, just noticing the sounds around you, allowing the sounds to come in to meet your ears. So no need to pick anything out or give a name to anything, but just let the sounds come into your ears. If by tuning into the sounds around you, you scrunched up the space between your eyebrows, now see if you can soften the space between your eyes. Soften your cheekbones, soften your jaw. You always have the option to stay in your Shavasana just as long as you like. But if you feel ready and called to do so, gently start to reawaken your body. Invite some gentle movement into your fingers and to your toes. Maybe start to become aware of your breath and gently turn your head side to side. Maybe invite some gentle movement into your ankles, into your wrists, and any other parts of your limbs that feel like just a little bit of movement goes a long way to help you reawaken. And then if it feels good to do so, maybe you take it into a big good morning stretch. Stretch your legs out long, stretch your arms up and overhead. Take a nice big breath back into your body. And then slowly roll onto one side. So think fetal position. So take your time as you roll to one side and then pause in that fetal position for a moment. Whatever hand is on top, let that hand rest on the ground. Let your head rest if it can. Notice the solidness underneath your hand. Take a nice deep breath in. Slow breath out. And then help yourself come up with that top hand. So gently push into that top hand, lift yourself up in a way that works good for you, and then find yourself up into a comfortable seated position, which might mean Sukhasana with legs crossed, but any other seat that feels good to you and lets you sit up nice and tall. And then once you've found your way there, we're going to come back to that breath awareness. So hands on the ribs, close your eyes down for just a moment. Take a nice generous inhale, feel that expansive movement in your rib cage. Take one more breath here. And then releasing your hands from your ribs, maybe bring your prayer hands together at heart center in Anjali Mudra. So thumbs to sternum, elbows slightly wide. So if I sometimes have a tendency to let my elbows be nice and slack, but just for tonight, a gentle pressure into the palms, elbows come out just a little bit wider, thumbs to sternum, and then just notice that connection of energy as you press into the palms. Maybe just notice the warmth of your hands or the coolness of your hands. Do your hands feel dry? Do they feel moist? As you started to tune into the connection between your hands, maybe you put a little bit more pressure on. And then as you notice that gentle pressure between your palms, you might notice that activation that happened up at the shoulders to make that happen. Take one more breath. And then soften that position. Let your elbows be soft. Let your ribs be slightly soft and bow your head to your heart. Breathing in love and gratitude for yourself, for your mind, for your body, and the time that you take to take care of yourself. And breathe in a little extra love and gratitude that you can carry with you through the rest of your night and share with everyone you see. And when you feel ready, gently lift up through the top of your head, gently open your eyes. I bow to you. Happy Monday.